Hello and welcome back to the DevelUPment Podcast. My name is Garrett Vita and I'm your host. In this podcast, we level up your real estate development and personal development skills and knowledge. Today, I'm here with my good friend, Trey Gutierrez. He is from Austin, Texas. He is a real estate developer and custom home builder. I knew when we first met, we'd be really good friends. He's such a down-to-earth guy, faith-based guy, and just super knowledgeable. And I'm really excited for you to really learn from him because he has so much knowledge, and I'm super excited for you to get to know him as well. First stuff to start off with, what made you get into custom home building versus doing spec homes? I know there's a lot of people that do spec homes, but there's very, very small niche of those who actually do custom home builds.
Yeah, sure. Well, I actually got into spec building first
Mm-hmm.
with no experience and not really knowing where to start. The first thing I did was seek mentorship. A good friend of mine, his dad's a custom home builder here in Austin. And when COVID hit, I was doing a lot of working from home with my accounting job, and I was spending a lot of good time with them. So I had kind of would knock out all my work early in the morning and run off to his job sites. I was always interested in construction. They had just built their own personal home and spending some time there with my buddy. I was like, man, I got to know the business a little more. It got me a lot more interested. I was able to walk a lot of job sites, and then, without having any experience, it's tough to have a family want to hire you, right? So the first thing I did was kind of seek what he did with his small portion of specs, and I found an area just outside of Austin, built my first spec, and kind of just took off from there. Now I'm starting to get custom interest, but I want to kind of keep it 50-50 with specs and customs.
What were some positive and negatives of both? Because I know there's drawbacks to and really good things about both spec homes as well as custom homes.
Well, specs, it's a lot more responsibility. Well, I take that back. They're both a lot of responsibility, but it's more of your own money into it. You've got to find ways to raise money or have the money to buy the land. You have to be convincing to the private lender or to the banks that you're capable of accomplishing that type of project. I mean, building a home is, depending on what size you're going after. I mean, it could be anywhere from a $300,000 loan to $1 million loan just on the vertical alone. So you're having to take on a lot more risk on your own, but the pros of that is you can run your project at your own pace. Now, when you have a custom, you're having to keep up with your clients. You're having to make selections with them. You're working with, I mean, it's like a marriage. You're really trying to give them the experience and the product that they want. And I mean, they're putting a lot of money into it, especially the type of product that we're building, $500,000 to $1 million. I mean, this is typically a lot of people's last home. And so it's a lot of different factors that go into it that keeps them very much involved.
Mm-hmm.
And but you're not having to put as much risk into it with your own money. You can work with their bank, their draw schedule, and the cash flow comes a lot easier. So they both have pros and cons, but I would prefer to do spec homes only if I was at that point in my career.
I see. As the custom home builder, do you usually help them find the lots too, or is it they usually do that on their own?
Where I'm at, I'm really fortunate. There's a lot of growth here. I'm building specifically between south of Austin and north of San Antonio, which is, I don't know the statistics, but it's up there like in the top zip codes, top counties of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people are where I got started is a growing community. It's a golf course community,
Mm-hmm.
and there was only about 20 or 30% occupied. So
Oh,
I built my first spec there, and a lot of people just ended up buying property there and seeing my product and wanting to build there. But that whole general area, probably within like a 30-40 mile radius, tons of vacant land, infill lots. Developers are building out communities, and I'm not having to help them too much with finding their land.
that's interesting. That's good to hear. How
Yeah.
about with all the entitlements and all that? Do you supply them with all the engineers and all that, and take them through the permitting process, or is that usually they got to figure that out on their own?
We've tried to provide that experience. with my relationships where I have an architect, engineer, surveyors, all the contractor relationships, bank relationships, so that our custom clients feel like they can come straight to us and we can point them in the right direction, but it's no way limited them in being able to work with who they want to. I've had clients come to me with their own set of plans, or that they've already talked to a bank that's going to be providing them their construction lending and their mortgage lending. So it's really just up to them, but I like to be a good point of reference if I can.
That's good. As a builder and a home builder, there's construction is very timeline based. How do you structure that out on a project basis? Do you use different systems, or do you have a system process in place for that?
We're a growing team. Right now, it's just myself and my mother. She works a lot of the back end of the business, and I work a lot of the front end. And we're working on streamlining our system and processes. I mean, with two people and the growth that we're having, it was all right when we had 2-3 projects at a time to manage everything. And now that we're getting so much interest, we're very grateful. But we're bringing in more team members. We're figuring out how can we best be efficient and offer still that same experience if we're taking on 5, 7, 10 projects at a time. Right now, it's all in the head, and we understand as far as our budget is structured with the first thing that gets done to the last thing that gets done. So we can kind of just follow the way that we structure our budget down all the way down to the bottom, and it's coordinated to be in sync with what the schedule should be to build the house.
Interesting. How I guess how is it with dealing with the clients? Because I know they can be I'm sure they're very like more, I guess, uptight or more stressed, or just maybe just super excited,
Yeah.
with all that. How do you deal with that and all that?
Yeah.
Because it's very, very involved in comparison to spec homes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of the two. Of course, we vet the client just like they vet us. It's all about relationship and personalities meshing and things like that. And most of the time, like I mentioned, it's their last home, so they haven't. They kind of know what to expect as far as what they want out of a builder, and so it's a lot of patience on both ends. They have to be patient with us as far as us being able to. They know they're not their only project for us, and us on the other end, we have to understand that, hey, there's a lot of variables that go into this. There's going to be some clients that are a lot more involved than others. Some are like, hey, you're the builder, you've got the experience, we've seen your spec homes, kind of just give us something similar to that. Others are, oh, we've been picking all of our selections out for the past few months, and we know exactly what we want. And we like to offer a true custom experience when it comes to the custom homes, that hey, you're not limited to these suppliers, you're not limited to these vendors, you're not limited to these contractors. If you found this tile or this flooring, across overseas, as long as we're communicating that, hey, it's going to take X amount of time to get over here and whatnot, we're willing to do that. And so it's an interesting process, but we've grown to appreciate it, and we're always thankful for the relationships we have through the build and at the end as well. And I would say that we've done a good job of making clients happy, that we've done a lot more business referral based. So we're really thankful for that.
So how do you because I know people they say they want one thing, but when time gets closer to actually putting it in, they may want something else. How do you protect yourself as the developer and because of home builder?
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. Yeah, we started to implement change orders, which is a new thing for us. Considering my first 4 projects were all specs, I knew what it was like to work with a custom client because of the mentor of mine. When he was building his customs and I was running around with him, I would see the interactions he had and some of the things he had to deal with. But when it comes to them changing their mind and things like that, I mean, we have to charge accordingly. We have to make them aware of the delays. And a lot of times once you get going on this, we pride ourselves on efficiency. So it's like, hey, why is our project gonna sit for a week or two? Well, now we're shifting gears. We're ordering something different, and we don't know where it's coming from. We don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know if it needs to come from a store, 3-4 hours away and be transferred. We don't know how that's going to affect our contractors' schedules. And so it's something that can happen, but it comes with a cost for sure.
Interesting. Do you have any project management tips?
Project management tips? Well, not right now. I have a brother that's actually in college just down the road, and I pass by his college on my way to 2 of my job sites every day. So I'm looking to bring him on here in the next month over the summer as an intern and kind of use him as an opportunity to learn the family business, but also, hey, what type of responsibilities do I want to delegate to him so that I can free up my time and focus on our business more? Really, when it comes to project management, the best way I learned is just being there every day. Anytime there's a contractor there, be there. Sometimes there's not a whole lot to ask. They're just, most of the time you just kind of want to stay out of their way and let them do what they're there to do. But I've grown to really want to have a lot of knowledge when it comes to my contractors, and I'll ask them questions. I'll just look at things. If I have a question, I'm fortunate enough to have a few mentors that I can send a picture and say, hey, what's this? And the more time you spend out there, the more educated you'll become. And I've only been doing this for just over 3 years, and looking back, the knowledge that I've gained just from being on job sites is really helpful. And a lot of that, I was able to take a little bit of a step forward with being able to spend about 5 or 6 months with that first mentor on his job sites every day. I always would ask him, is there a book I can read? Is there a certain person I can listen to on YouTube or something like that? He's like, man, you just have to be here. You just have to be here, and you'll come to figure out that there's a lot that you can learn from that.
Definitely. What for our guests, just want to take a quick short break. I know Trey's getting a lot of good knowledge, but every month I hold a group called Giving to Deals, where real estate investors and we go to different parts of the community and we serve and volunteer, whether it's from food banks to beach cleanups to animal sanctuaries. This is where we get to really network, build relationships with each other, as well as make a difference in the community. You can check us out on Eventbrite as well as Meetup. And if you're basically out here in San Diego or Southern California, we would love for you to join us. There's no specific dates. We just depend on the vendors, but we would love for you to join us. I know you first mentioned that you didn't have experience coming into your spec homes. Can you tell more about how your experience? Because I know a lot of people want to get into real estate development. They get very intimidated. But can you kind of share what was your mental process of getting over that hump initially, and then how's that experience going through from no experience to actually getting into it?
Sure. My first experience, I thought that learning from my mentor, I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew everything so quickly. Every time I showed up to his job sites, I had this notebook, and I would just write down, hey, this is kind of the process of what he's doing. And I grew to know what it was like to build a house pretty quickly. What I didn't know was what it was like to manage contractors, what it was like to manage a budget. And so my first experience did not go very well. It ended up being all right, but I ended up hiring a local general contractor to that area who sold me really well. I saw it as a partnership. He was building his own spec homes, and pretty much I put a lot of trust in a guy that I didn't know too well. And only about 20-30% through the project, I quickly realized that I was spending a lot more than I needed to, and I wasn't getting a very quality project done. So I brought an inspector in, had to lose a little bit of money, and ended up taking over the project completely on my own and finishing it out way longer than I expected, way more over budget. But the experience, you can't beat that experience, right? Sometimes you have to fail to recognize what to do better. And so I would advise anyone that's interested in doing a spec, and if you feel not so confident, right, because a lot of us don't have that experience, to truly vet out a good mentor or a good general contractor to partner with if you're doing this out of town, because people can be a little bit deceiving, and you learn from those experiences, of course, but just kind of have someone to go to ask those questions. And even when you feel like you're failing or it's getting a little bit tough, just keep sticking it out. I mean, it's there's always a way out of it. I mean, I was in a lot of tough situations with that house, and I found my way out of it, and it didn't stop me from starting the next one, right? So you just have to overcome those challenges and recognize that there's people in your corner that you can turn to, and it'll be all right.
I love how you mentioned mentors. I know, like, that's one of the things that you definitely need in real estate development, because there's so many minute things, so much liability and risk. It's funny. I don't think I mentioned to you, like, when I was first getting to development, I think I was gonna try to do it, figure it out myself, because I've heard people doing it. But I was talking to catching up with a mentor, and she didn't recommend that, and so she recommended to find a mentor. So I ended up doing that with Jerome, and so I was like, holy man, I'm so glad I did it, because like I was at a networking event, and one guy was telling me he was doing his first new build. Well, it's considered a flip, but like it was literally like, it was an old house. He tore everything down except for like one stud. So like, it was pretty much a new build.
Yeah.
So he was telling me his experience, and I was like, wow, dude. He was like, I forgot how many months, but he was like so way over budget, and like,
yeah, it's a tough learning curve, and I really had to go through it. It's funny looking back now, thinking of that experience, because in that moment, I was just so upset. I was like, how could I be taken advantage in this way? Like, why did I feel as if I was so smart to accomplish this on my own? And I ended up getting through a lot of it on my own, but I did have to turn back to the mentor that I had that previous summer and ask him to talk me through a lot of those scenarios. I have another mentor of mine that's close to my family, that he has a commercial construction company, that he was able to walk me through some things. So any relationships that you can make with someone in your industry, whether it's construction, development, or anything else, I mean, keep them close to you, even if sometimes you have to pay for that. It pays dividends in the end, for sure. And those are still relationships I have today. I mean, even my mentors that I'm starting to do a little bit better, that doesn't stop me from every 2-3 weeks, I send them a text or have a phone call like, hey, this is kind of what I'm going through now. This is the growth that I'm dealing with. This is the problem that I've never encountered. And it's so much help to be able to have those people in your corner.
I think real estate development, like, of all the niches within the real estate and construction, like, I think the construction is like the most relationship based, well, quite literally. And like, it's interesting how like the importance of really communication, being really good at vetting others and building those relationships makes the hugest difference, from like simplest things, just finding an architect or just getting things done. It's like, wow, this makes so much a difference, and it really requires you to be a really good communicator. Absolutely. I know for me too, like I've learned that I'm a lot better at communicating than I am, and I didn't know that I was okay at it first, but it's so interesting what learning experience you get from real estate development.
Right. And I've always been a social guy, but I remember when I first started, I wanted to text everybody. I wanted to email everybody. And it's like, I quickly broke a little bit more out of my shell. And now I just pick up the phone anytime I have a question or an issue, or I need to address something. And now I've grown to have a team full of contractors and even people outside of, your architect, your banker, and things like that. I like to work with people that I know are going to take care of me. I had to go through a fair share of different contractors, but now it's like, look, if I can hire you and I know that you and your team is going to take care of the situation, and maybe I don't need to supervise you as much and oversee what you're doing. I mean, that makes you feel so much more comfortable. That helps my custom clients feel so much more comfortable. And I mean, those relationships are everything.
Do you have any tips on like vetting relationships? Maybe it's a subcontractor, maybe it's an architect, or maybe, a lender, whatever it is, as we've been talking about, business is very relationship based.
Sure. I would question the experience. I always like to question the experience over price. I quickly learned that you end up paying a lot more for the cheapest price in the end. Uh, I've I've gone through my fair share of contractors, for example, that maybe it's a certain stage of the job that you wanted to get three prices, and this guy seems like, I mean, there's people out there that overcharge, and there's people out there that they will charge a very low price just to win the work. But usually it's like you have to question, well, why are they so free, or why is their work so cheap?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about the person. Whoever's trying to sell you on their work, ask them to see some of their previous jobs, maybe even talk to another general contractor, a builder, developer that they work with. I'm always referring my quality guys, and I mean, there's plenty of work to go out there. They don't only work for us, so it's like, hey, if I'm thinking of working with you, let me speak to someone that has worked with you. Let them tell me a little bit about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, there's plenty of work to go around. We're all just trying to work with each other, create relationships, and at the end of the day, their work will speak for itself. Their quality of communication will speak for itself, and that'll help a lot with building your team full of contractors.
I love how you mentioned that the abundance mindset of really giving referrals. I know within like the real estate investing side, I know a lot of people don't share their GCs
Mhm.
typically because they're like, oh, they're not gonna be my project side. But you're like, no, I'm gonna give you your GC if you need one. You subcontract or architect, and I think that speaks volume to who you are and in your business. Because I think that having that kind of mindset makes a huge difference. 'Cause it's like, as you're right, like we don't own them. Like they're good quality work. Like, wouldn't you want to have someone good to give? I mean, because like
Right.
there's so many bad contractors out there. So it's like it's
Well,
hard to like.
too, you refer them, and you would hope that'll help them take care of you a little bit more as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of these guys, they've grown to even be friends of mine. I mean, of course, you got to keep things professional, and work is work, and there's expectations on both ends. But it's like, look, I want to, once you get to know someone personally, I mean, you're spending a lot of time with them on your projects. You're putting a lot of trust in them. You're paying a lot of money for a lot of these different stages,
Mhm.
and it's like, look, you take care of me, I'll take care of you, and you just have to have that abundance mindset, like you mentioned.
Awesome. And one of the things that unfortunately we live in this world is that's more litigious. I know there's a lot of risk with development construction. So how do you reduce the liability and risk from a custom home builder and from a building perspective as well?
Well, it's tough to reduce the risk. I mean, experience and trust in your suppliers and your contractors goes a long way. Um, that they're a representation of you, and so I just, I mean, there's been times where I pay, like, say there's a big company, for example, on my last project, I was building a very complex foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and I've worked with the same foundation company for a while now, but there was a little bit more complexity to this one. So I had to go with a referral that ended up costing a little bit more, but man, they really took care of me, and my clients were really happy. And even I'm really happy with them. And with the amount of money that's going into these sort of projects, you just want to keep risk as low as possible, and not run into any bigger issues by trying to save a little bit of money. So I'm always looking to pay for the comfort of working with someone that's going to really take care of the project. And I feel like that always pays off in the end.
How did you know that your in that situation? How did you know that your current uh, foundation guy didn't have the experience, or maybe they didn't have that specialty in the foundation compared to that one company that you did hire?
Well, I was fortunate enough that they were very straightforward with me. This was kind of like on a hillside here, so
Oh, I see.
it was, the foundation ended up being about like 10 feet tall in the back, and the
Wow.
clients are trying to, yeah, they're trying to accomplish this hill country view, and in which I see why. And
Uh-huh.
the topography of the land, it just would have been a little bit too complex. So I actually hired the foundation crew that works for my mentor out in
Mhm.
Austin, and man, they took great care of me. And I'm getting ready to start a new project that I'm working with my previous concrete contractor. So
Mm-hmm.
I have them both now, and I get estimates from both. And everyone that works with us understands that there's no hard feelings when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
who I decide to work with. I mean, I'm always open to. I could be working with the same guy for years, and if
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity presents itself that someone new that I feel like could do quality work for a fair price is willing to work with us, of course I'll welcome that,
Mm-hmm.
because as I look to grow, I mean, I can only keep guys at one job at a time. So there may come a point to where if I accomplish my goal of having 5-10 projects going at once, I'm going to need more than one crew. So, make friends with everybody, vet everybody, always be looking to make new relationships, and you'll never know when you need to rely on that person to help you out.
I love that, man. That's awesome. How do you, for when you're, do you have any tips for getting bids? Because I know there's supplies, because I know there's always supplies are on the higher end, some are like on the cheaper, but I mean, where's that fine line between going for the most expensive versus the cheapest?
When it comes to getting bids, I would say that really try to lay out a payment schedule. Bids can be kind of straightforward. Hey, this is the work, this is the price. But one thing that I had to quickly learn is, okay, when are you expecting to get paid? If this is just a 2-3 day job, are you going to need a little bit up front to, like, say, for example, you're not buying the materials and you want them to, because a lot of times I don't know what to get on certain things.
Yeah.
On others I do, but on some I don't. And it's like, okay, let me pay you for what you need to buy. Definitely don't overpay for work not completed, because guys, unfortunately, they will walk sometimes, especially if you've never worked with them, and you have to really try to understand someone's personality. But if 75% of the work's done, pay 50%. Most of these guys know how it works. When the work is complete, you'll get paid your full amount. If you are presenting yourself well, they shouldn't have any trust issues that you're not going to pay them. Make sure that they're keeping up with their work, and have it documented. I had to learn that's like, hey, look, before you start, these are your 3 different stages that you're going to get paid when you finish this point, or when you get to the end of the week here, and at the end I'll pay you that final check once we walk through all the punch list items. And I mean, even get them to sign off on it, because sometimes you'll put a little bit of trust in someone and say, oh, I'll pay you, but hey, come back next week. There's still these few things, and then they can be tough to get a hold of, and then you're having to call in somebody completely different who doesn't want to take responsibility for someone else's work or something like that. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it's helpful to lay out that payment schedule whoever you decide to work with, and get them to sign off on it.
Is it typical for most trades for the subs to require like a small amount upfront?
Not if it's only labor. If there's some materials, like, for example, I am still not too educated on, like, say, stucco materials.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a lot of stucco homes around here, and I won't know how much lath to buy, or sand to buy, or concrete to buy. My takeoff, I'm just not there yet, and so I'll let my contractor buy that. I know it could, for the size homes that we're doing, it can be a couple $1,000s. So I'm willing to pay some of that, and we've grown to have a trusting relationships to where I don't feel it that I'm going to give him a check and he's just going to run off with it, and I never see my materials. And so, but if it's labor only, say you have a floor setter and you bought all the flooring and everything that they're going to need, there should be no reason for them to need any money up front.
Got it. So it's mainly just the supplies that they will.
It's the supplies. If you're going to work with a contractor who's going to supply all those materials, then it's understanding. But just make sure you do a gut check that they're going to do what they say, and take the money that you're giving to them, and actually buy what you're asking them to buy.
And then once you you build the home, then what systems and processes do you have in place for servicing your warranties?
Sure. So we, for only being, and I don't know if this is across the whole United States, but I know in Texas where we're at, we don't qualify for the big national home builders 210 warranty. And so I started getting that question a lot when I was getting people to buy the homes or want to build a spec with us. And so we offer a 1 year workmanship warranty, which is maybe any cracks in your stone mortar or your stucco, or maybe you have some fixture issues, a leak in your house, or uh, one of your light fixtures isn't working. We'll warranty that for a year, and we've never had any issues with any buyers or clients that understand that. And then when it comes to the big structural stuff, I like to work with like foundation contractors, for example. I mean, I mean, it's everything in your house. It's what keeps your house up. I want them to be able to offer a 10-year structural warranty through their company. And we just try to give as many inspections as we can to show that we're keeping up with the quality, even from a buyer. Hey, here are the 5, 6 inspections that we had. They all passed. And we can't offer the 210 warranty without having, I believe it's 10 houses within a 3-year span, which we're not there yet. Once we get there, we for sure will be passing over the warranty to that. And even sometimes with being able to provide inspections and things like that, a buyer or a client can get their own warranty. And I think that they'll vet us and before they end up being able to pass that on to them.
So in the state of Texas, they have a minimum number of builds to be completed in order for you guys to get a 210 warranty.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, I know, because we wanted to provide that. We have a lot of confidence in our product, and I'm always reflecting on this too. I was having a conversation the other day where it's like, wow, I've built 5 specs now, and I don't get any phone calls about issues, and when we do, we take care of it right away. It's very minimal.
Yeah.
And so thankfully we haven't ran into that issue. You just never know what may happen. You can try your best to prevent all these big issues, but sometimes it just happens. It's the nature of the beast. So our goal is to get to those 10 houses as quickly as possible so that we can offer a little bit more comfort to our clients and our buyers and even ourselves.
Love it. I know one of the things that you do is you have a Meet the Builder open house. Can you tell us more about that, why you do it, etc.?
Sure. Yeah. As I was doing a lot of specs, I was wanting to, with the state of the market and the price point that we're at, I did 3 specs in a subdivision that has 50 houses for sale, and all 3 of mine sold. So where there's a lot of builders that are holding on to their 5, 10 houses for over a year now, which I definitely feel for them. And our days on market took a little bit longer than we would have liked, but we're very grateful that our homes sold. So with that being said, as we were hitting to the final stages of the build, I was like, let's invite some potential client, because there's a lot of vacant land in that same subdivision or even surrounding subdivisions. Like, hey, let's offer this an opportunity to meet some clients that may want to do some customs, because we wanted to transition into more customs as we kind of figure out the state of the market and wanting to do more specs. And so that gives them an opportunity to see our product, get to know us. And the amount of leads that we've had from those Meet the Builder open houses have been great. We've got a lot of rapport with different people, even people that didn't maybe end up building with us. They'll get to know us personally, and they'll refer us to a friend of theirs. And it's something that I want to continue to do, probably on like a monthly basis. I've only got customs going right now, so I have to obviously ask my clients, hey, are you guys okay with me inviting others over into your home? Sometimes they're not as comfortable with that as others would be, but it's a good opportunity to get more work and just put our name out there and our brand out there and let people get to know us.
Well, I love that. As you were talking, I was like, mate, I bet that's the reason why you were able to sell it quick, is because that relationship that you built up front at those times. Like, that's interesting. A whole year for those other builders.
Yeah, I still feel for them. They have they'll try to have like a community-wide open house like once a month and bring as much attention as they can to it. But I always try to take a lot of pride in our product being like a step up, just because there was so many builders competing at the same price point, same square footage, same finishes. And it's like, look, let's spend a little bit more on the quality of the design and the quality of the finishes. And you know, we'll try to sell for a little bit more of a higher price point. And you know, we were very fortunate to be able to get out of those. Like I said, it was a little bit more days on market than we expected, but we're not holding on to houses, unlike a lot of others. And you know, hopefully they can get those homes sold here soon. But it was a great opportunity for us to show what we can do and still come out on the other end of that.
Was there a certain time where you noticed like having those that meet the builder was like most impactful? For example, was it like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, or is it more towards like 5
Usually
p.m.?
on the weekends. On the weekends, yeah, we would try to market it for a week or two. And I mean, even we were part of those community-wide open houses when our houses weren't finished, and we could be halfway through the process and still, you know, not have flooring in and not have certain things in. It's like, well, if everyone's coming to the neighborhood, hey, let's put our house open as well. And there's always people watching in construction. You know, you may not think it, but it's I was able to realize that really quickly. And people that have never spoken to you, have never even acknowledged what you're doing, you'd be surprised. Like they know everything. They know the whole layout of your house. They've walked it after hours when you're not around. They've paying attention to your website and kind of how you're just presenting yourself on the daily. That's why I'm like, hey, let's keep our job sites clean, like everything through in and throughout. Let's just make sure that we're presenting ourselves really well. And I mean, it's really paid off being able to have those type of events.
Oh, it's awesome. I like that. I'll start doing that too. And last but most important question, how can the audience get in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah. My Instagram is probably the best way to reach me. My handle's at Trey Builds Houses. So look me up there. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm always looking to network with anyone, really, entrepreneurs, builders, developers, and you know, just reach out to me and I'll be happy to communicate with you about whatever questions you have, or just create new friendships is always something that I'm interested in.
Awesome, man. No, thank you so much for that. I've definitely learned a lot, and so it's always great to talk with you. Again, audience, thank you so much for listening. I hope you've learned a lot. No matter what you do, make sure you join your fight, and we'll see you guys next time.